if you have difficulty getting your child to eat vegetables, then I urge you to check out this video because we will show you how to incorporate more veggies into your diet and that of your child. Okay, welcome to the family prep lesson. If you have children that struggle to eat vegetables and they absolutely dislike it and it's just always a battle, then this is a series of mini recipes you can use to meal prep your way for the week and all at the same time incorporating more veggies into your diet. So the first step is very simply just to cut the butternut squash into large pieces and season with olive oil and salt and bake in the oven for approximately 30 minutes. Now, the next step is to get our mashed potato going. So that just requires peeling the potato, washing to get the excess starch off, and then we will come back and dice it into large chunks, wash it a final time, and then that will go on the stove for approximately 20 minutes until the pieces are tender. Now, what our plan is with the mashed potato is we are going to add cauliflower into it because the color is the same, and again, our objective is really just to get more vegetables into your child's diet. So this is the plan. Make sure when you refill the pot with water that you salt it and just gently taste the water to make sure it just tastes lightly salted, because that will immediately give your mashed potato a thorough seasoning. Sometimes when you add the salt later on, it doesn't necessarily enhance the flavor of the dish, it just makes it taste salty. So now we're going to get on to the next kind of long preparation time recipe, and that is to make our bolognese sauce. And it just requires chopping an onion. We're not worrying about making it too fine. Now you do have the option, if your child doesn't even want to see a piece of onion, you could use onion powder and garlic powder, because this is really just for flavor rather than any real nutritious advantage. And so easy peasy to do the cauliflower was just cutting away the large florets and just cutting it down into small to medium sized pieces. It doesn't need to be perfect because we're going to add this into the pot with the potato as it nears the end of its cooking. So we're saving using one more pan, having to wash something else up. And as you see, we're just throwing it in there, and then you will just need to top that up with water so it's evenly covered. And cauliflower cooks very quickly, so in 5 minutes that should be ready. But definitely check the potato is tender before you take it off. Now for our lasagna layer, we're going to use zucchini slices instead of pasta. And so we're just slicing it carefully. Make sure you use a sharp knife, and if you need to use a mandolin, that's also an option, but sometimes you cannot get it as the correct thickness as you need it to be. Okay, now we're going to get our vegetables together for roasting. And I've chosen carrots and parsnips because usually these go down with less fuss than other vegetables. Generally because they taste a bit sweeter, and especially after you roast them, it does enhance the sweetness and the texture is less challenging for children. Very simply, we are just going to cut them in half and then into quarters. and then we'll toss them with some olive oil and salt and bake them. You do have the opportunity to add things like garlic powder, paprika, just all depends on how adventurous you want to be. Now, parsnips are such a great vegetable because they just have, the flavour is just so naturally good. And I remember when I was a child, I was not a big veggie eater at all, but parsnips were always the kind of go-to on a Sunday lunch. That was always the main thing I filled my plate up with beside the meat and potatoes. So I don't see any reason why it would be any different. So you see how I'm cutting it here? I'm just cutting it down into slices and then coming across. Now bear in mind that it will take a bit longer to cook than the carrots, so that's why we're cutting it a little bit smaller. But obviously our objective is efficiency, so our plan is to roast it on the same tray. Yeah, our objective is to roast it on the same tray to save time and save having to wash one more thing up. Very simply, just light coating of oil, olive oil or avocado oil is best. Season lightly and you can throw that in the oven. Now we're going to prepare the core ingredients for the salmon curry. We're just doing a slightly finer chop than we did for the bolognese. And we're also going to lightly chop some ginger as well. This is definitely a slightly more adventurous dish to try. If you feel that your child is not quite ready for this, then don't worry about doing this recipe. But I think it's a good kind of stepping stone if you're trying to help them be more adventurous, and if they're already showing that they are interested in other flavors. This is a good kind of starter curry for kids that want to kind of explore these things. Now we have a piece of fish. Unfortunately for me, this was still frozen when I was cooking, so it is a bit more challenging to remove the skin. But if you're taking it from fresh, it's very much a similar process, or if you prefer, you can cut it into portions like you can see on the right hand side of the board and then cut it across like that. That is definitely the easier way. But if you are more comfortable with your knife skills, then you can go for the whole side as I showed you. And once you have it in that situation, we're just going to cut it into good sized pieces so it doesn't cook too quickly. And obviously just make sure it is fully defrosted before you start cooking, so you have more control and it will cook through more evenly. We've taken the vegetables out when they are tender and cooked, and now we can start to get the bolognese on. We are getting the bolognese started with browning off the meat. And in a separate pan, we are browning off the onion and garlic and adding in the tomato and adding in the bolognese just to start cooking it. So here is the potato and cauliflower. It's all fully tender. I've added butter here. You don't have to. You could add milk, cream, oat milk if you're trying to stay off dairy. But really it's just enough just to help the masher create a nice consistency. Now we have things back on the stove cooking, we're going to get some more chopping done. And these are vegetables that are going to go through the curry. I'm just cutting this into nice sized pieces so you can actually see what you're eating. I season these zucchini slices with salt, which helps to draw out the excess moisture. So now I'm just giving them all a rinse in order to get the salt off. And before I cook that, I'm just going to make a very, very simple sauce to go on top of the lasagna. Like technically you would use a bechamel, but because this is just about efficiency, I'm just showing you the quickest way to do something similar, and it's really just adding grated parmesan to Greek yogurt and a small amount of chicken stock, chicken bouillon or stock cubes dissolved in hot water, and that's just going to help the cheese melt into the yogurt, and it's going to go straight on top of the bolognese lasagna dish once we're doing it. It doesn't have to be perfect, we're just looking for something that has cheesy flavour and is a rough kind of consistency. While we're here, we're also just going to cut up our chicken for the chicken fingers. Nice sized pieces, you don't want to be messing around with trying to breadcrumb a million different small pieces, just good chunks, that's fine. And to breadcrumb anything is very, very simple. It's really just a process of flour, eggs, and breadcrumbs. The reason for this is the first step, the flour, just gives the item something dry for the egg to stick onto, and that allows the breadcrumbs to stick onto that. So you can do this with anything, fish, chicken, vegetables, anything you want really. And I'm just using this fork here to pick it up out of the wet mix so my hands don't get too covered in breadcrumbs. This is definitely a great task to do with your child because you can have one of you doing one half and the other's doing the other. So our bolognese sauce has been on for a while and the butternut squash is fully cooked, so we're just scraping out the flesh, and I advise you to do it when it's less hot. Unlike me, what we'll be doing is putting the butternut squash puree through the bolognese. Now we're just making our curry sauce, which is just cashew nuts and coconut milk. Blend it up until fully smooth, and that will basically just be poured into the pan later on. And so we're adding zucchini in, bolognese on top, another layer, and on the very, very top we will be putting our parmesan sauce. And we'll bake that for approximately 30 minutes at 360 degrees. So now one of the final things to get cooking is the curry sauce. So we have the onion, ginger and garlic, along with our spices, the cumin, coriander, turmeric, and I've added a small amount of chili, which you can not add depending on what level you feel you're at. And the salmon, we're just searing it gently. So it's already a little bit cooked before we add in the sauce, and that really helps it with the general control, because we want the salmon to be kind of infused with the spices in the pan and those flavors. So we're cooking that down. You can see the salmon's, when the salmon's starting to get a little cooked around the outside, we can throw in our sauce. And this does thicken up quite quickly, so we want to keep it moving. Just keep it on a low to medium heat and it will cook through. And when the salmon is starting to flake, that's when you should take it off. And the chicken fingers are very simple. All we're doing is just in a pan with a small amount of oil. We're just browning it very, very gently. Once they're ready, we can put it on a tray lined with parchment and put it in the oven. We're cooking the broccoli as well. And that's it, everything is there. Once the chicken fingers are cooked, everything is plated up. If you can't get your kids off the processed food, this is your best option. Everything is made from scratch, which you can reheat through the week to keep your kids on a clean, healthy eating program. And if you've enjoyed that lesson, I look forward to seeing you in the next one.